There's a bill coming up in the State Assembly of New York asking the question as to whether or not to allow women's wombs to be rented for purposes of paid surrogacy. In New York, it's Assembly Bill A1071C. I happen to think it's a bad idea, and here are my reasons. First of all, I think that allowing women to be rented for purposes of paid surrogacy is almost a textbook definition of exploitation of women. It's a commodification of female bodies. And I would have a couple of subpoints under that thought. The argument is sometimes given that contractual surrogacy exploitation is no more exploitative than other jobs New Yorkers do. Well, to me, that's not a viable argument because other exploitations are just as bad. And to say that because there are other bad things makes this bad thing okay just doesn't make sense. To say that because there are other bad things, this one is justified also. I don't think this one is justified any more than those are justified. My second subpoint under this is that the real profit, from my understanding, is earned by the lawyers and the doctors and the middlemen. It's just the exploitation of the woman who's the carrier. A third subpoint under that is that it seems to have a lot of similarities to slavery and prostitution. Paying women for the use of their bodies, or paying women to do what you want them to do, and you sort of own them for the next 9 months. I think it also has similarities to selling organs. You're sort of selling a body part. Well, in this case, you're renting a body part. But it has the same kind of, it doesn't pass the smell test to me. So that's sort of my first reason. It's sort of a textbook definition of the exploitation of women. The next reason I don't like it is because I think it creates legal complications to who can claim parental rights. I mean, is the employer, the one who paid for the surrogacy, are they the parent? Is the employee the carrier, the one whose womb it is, the woman whose womb it is she the parent? Does the partner of the employer, someone who has no genetic and possibly even no financial connection to the child, do they have parental rights? I think one can easily see that we are creating, with this scenario, a societal and legal quagmire in the event of any kind of contention. My third objection to contractual gestational surrogacy is, what consideration is being given to the child? Research shows that a child is most stable and most emotionally healthy when in a household of a married man and woman. And this creates the possibilities for many other kinds of situations that are not necessarily in the best interest of the child. And so, what considerations are being given to the child for contractual gestational surrogacy? My fourth reason against it is that because of the expense, and doing some research on the internet, the expense can be anywhere from $25,000 up to $60,000 to rent a woman's womb for 9 months. I think it just strengthens the financial power imbalance between the rich and the poor, opening the door for widespread and wanton exploitation of lower class women. My fifth reason is that I'm against it is what happens in the event that the child has a genetic or a physical deformity? Can they then refuse to pay the woman carrying the child? Can the child be aborted? And who gets to decide whether to kill the baby or not, or to let it live? This is just a moral and a legal mess. And my last reason for being against contractual gestational surrogacy is that it seems to me that the potential for unethical behavior and circumstances in this commercial surrogacy is so great that it far outweighs the proposed benefits. I read on the internet that contractual gestational surrogacy is legal in 47 states. And I've also read that the argument in favor of it is that it allows same-sex couples to build families. But in my consideration of the matter, it just seems to me that the potential for unethical behavior and circumstances is so great that we are wiser to pursue other alternatives of remote parenting, which would be in vitro fertilization or adoption. Many children needing to be adopted. I just don't think that it's a good idea for New York or any other state. And if America leads the way, then what about countries where there is a great amount of poverty? Would people try to rent wombs there because it's less expensive, which is going to lead to even more economic oppression and exploitation of women? It's just not a good idea. I'd be curious to hear your reactions.